Hey, what it do, baby? Hey, it's Mac the Franchise coming at you on Turkey Day, or Turkey Day week. I don't know when this is getting uploaded. Probably not Thanksgiving, but if you are watching this on Thanksgiving, hope you're enjoying it with your family and going into a food coma. But enough about comas. Talking about football is kind of a scary subject. Let's get this show on the Rizzo. The Texans, after getting embarrassed by the Ravens last week, look to rebound and retake their division lead against the Colts on this Thursday night football game. The Texans look to make big plays down the field with wide receivers DeAndre Hopkins and the returning to action Will Fuller. Fuller had 140 yards, and Hopkins, who I have in fantasy football, had 94 yards and 2 tuds, so needless to say, I was pretty lit, fam. The Colts, on the other hand, couldn't get anything going through the air. Jacoby Brissett, he only threw for 129 yards this game. The only reason the Colts weren't getting blown out of the water was because the run game was working. Marlon Mack injured his hand and is out indefinitely because he had surgery on his hand. So the Colts turned to Jonathan Williams, who I also have in fantasy. He had over 100 yards and a tud. With this win, the Texans sit on top of the division, but haven't won it just quite yet. They have to take on New England next week while the Colts host the Titans. Kyle Allen started out on fire his first 6 games with 7 TDs to no INTs. Since then, though, he's been kind of cooled off, and he's been a turnover machine. In his past 3 games, he's thrown 3 TDs to 9 INTs, which probably had the Saints defense excited to play him. But things didn't exactly plan out that way. These division games, they're a lot tighter because they're used to playing each other, so people have an edge in these type of games. The Saints, they have this division to lose, but they also have it in the vice. The Panthers make them work for it. Michael Thomas, he had 100 yards and a tud, so my fantasy team clapped cheeks now. The Panthers had playmakers too in DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey, but it just wasn't enough to overthrow the Saints. Even with the aid of the refs, the Saints play the Falcons on Thanksgiving, which should be a revenge game because the Falcons clapped the Saints cheeks last week. And the Panthers, they play the lowly Redskins, who they just won their 2nd game of the season, and it was a first career win for Dwayne Haskins. Huzzah! The Eagles' offense hasn't looked the sharpest lately. Sunday's game didn't appear to make any matters better. Carson Wentz appeared to have a little bit of the bubbly in his system.
Oh, a little bit of the bubbly.
He had 5 turnovers by himself. While the Seahawks got the dub, Russell Wilson wasn't the sharpest himself either. He was sacked 6 times. Threw for only 200 yards, and he had a tud, but he had a pick too. What really separated these teams was a re-emergence of Rashad Penny. You guys remember him? You probably don't. He rushed for well over 100 yards, and he had a touchdown for his troubles. Granted, we like to crap on Carson Wentz, but he was playing with borderline second-string practice squad people. Because he was missing a running back, his top 3 receivers, his right guard, and his right tackle. But still, he was kind of missing wide open people in the flats a little bit further downfield. But I'm kind of like Scooter Magruder. It's just kind of cool when the Eagles lose.
At least the Eagles lost.
Turn it off! Turn it off! We don't have that this week. Not this week. The Cowboys come to Foxborough the number 1 offense, while the Patriots boast the number 1 defense. And a question that was lingering in most people's minds were, which was going to get first? And the answer would happen to be the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
The Cowboys, they didn't score a TD in this game, and that was for the first time in the season where they didn't score a touchdown. So hats off to the Pats. Both offenses struggled this game due to the dreary weather conditions. Tom Brady, he only threw for 190 yards, but he made them all count. One of his passes went to rookie N'Keal Harry for a touchdown, and he was having to step up due to Philip Dorsett and Mohamed Sanu being injured. The Cowboys' offense also struggled, obviously, because they didn't win. Ezekiel Elliott, he had 86 yards rushing. Dak threw for 212 yards, but he had an interception to Stephon Gilmore. Amari Cooper was shadowed by Stephon Gilmore, who I just mentioned, who I think he needs to have his name in consideration for being one of the best corners in the game today. He held Amari Cooper to 0 catches for his first time as a member of the Dallas Cowboys. And if you started him in fantasy, like my homeboy Sean Sparkman did, you probably were a wee bit ticked. Those phantom tripping calls by the refs certainly didn't help matters. Over 190 games have been played in the NFL this season, and tripping has been called in only 7 of them, and 2 of them came from this bloody game here. Hopefully, my Thanksgiving turkey won't taste salty from my tears when the Cowboys play the Buffalo Bills on Turkey Day.
Ref screwed us again. Fire Jason Garrett and the special teams coach. What's his name? I don't even know who he is, but he needs to be fired.
Sunday night, the Packers got graded by the cheese grater called the 49ers. They got absolutely dominated in all aspects of the game of football. The 49ers defense made Aaron Rodgers look like Blake Bortles. He was sacked 4 times and barely threw for over 100 yards, and he had a touchdown, but that came late in the game when it really didn't matter. Garbage time. The Niners had this game from the jump street. They forced a turnover on Green Bay's opening possession, turned it into a score, and never looked back. And guess who owns the 49ers defense in fantasy football? Woo!
Woo!
George Kittle, I might add, he's out there making grown men covering him look like little kids, even after missing the last 2 games. The Niners have an interesting matchup with the Ravens next week, while the Packers hope to bounce back against the Giants. Which, they probably will. You like to hope that they would. But don't sleep on the Giants. Daniel Jones, he's got it coming up with him. Going from one shellacking to the other, the Ravens destroyed the Rams on national television, leaving many to wonder how the H they even made it to the Super Bowl last year in the first place. The Ravens were of course led by Lamar Jackson on offense, who at this point has to have a vice-like grip on the MVP race. He had 5 tuds in his first game on Monday night, surprisingly. Not surprisingly, he had 5 tuds. It's like, I'm just surprised it was his first Monday night game. The Ravens, as a unit, they rushed for 285 yards, while the Rams' offense generated only a little over 220 total yards. The Ravens' defense picked off Jared Goff twice and held Todd Gurley to only 22 yards. Okay, at least it wasn't 2. It would have been bad. The Rams hope to bounce back next week against the Cardinals, while the Ravens, they have a really cool matchup against the 49ers, and I'm going to be looking forward to that game very well. The Dallas Mavericks have been on a roll as of late. They played the Clippers Tuesday night after winning their 3 previous contests against the Cavaliers, the Warriors, and the Rockets. But they ran into a very strong Clippers defense, and they turned it over 20 times and only shot 38% from the field. And they always play from behind due to these stats. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George both had 20-plus points with some steals mixed in there. But even with this loss, the Mavericks are still in 4th place in the Western Conference, and their next slate of matchups are pretty good. They play the Phoenix Suns, they play the Lakers, which would be a good, nice rematch, and then they play the Pelicans. And so we look forward to see what happens there. This past Saturday, ahead of his scheduled rematch with Tyson Fury in February, Deontay Wilder defended his heavyweight championship against Luis Ortiz. This was their second time these people have met. In the last fight, Luis Ortiz gave Deontay Wilder fits, and some would say he probably would have won the fight in the 7th round, but Wilder got saved by the bell. But in this fight, I would say that Wilder got his revenge because in the 7th round, ironically, he knocked out Ortiz. Alright, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was it for me this week. Next week, we'll see what happens there. Hopefully, I don't run out of memes, and hopefully, I don't run out of breath. But you enjoy your Thanksgiving. I enjoy it with my family, and I hope you guys enjoy it with your family too. And don't forget, if you listen to this, even if it's just for the first couple of minutes, even though you're kind of a hoe for that, you're still my family too. Okay, happy Thanksgiving. I'm Batman E. Bombay.